You are not who you think you are, not entirely. Beneath the polished surface of your personality, behind the curated smiles and socially acceptable fears, there is another you. One you've avoided, one you've exiled, one you've named monster, weakness, shame, or simply, not me. But Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst who peered deeper into the soul than most dared to look, had a different name for it: the shadow. And whether you know it or not, it has been walking beside you your whole life. You begin life in light, a child, bright-eyed, boundaryless. The world is a mirror, and you absorb it all: love, pain, rules, contradictions. You adapt, you edit, you trim parts of yourself to fit the mold that earns approval. You learn quickly that some feelings get applause and others get silence, or worse, rejection. So you bury those parts: the anger, the envy, the wild imagination, the terror, the urge to scream when everyone else is smiling. You call them bad, immature, embarrassing, and you send them down into the basement of your psyche. That basement becomes your shadow. But here's the problem. What we reject does not disappear. It waits. Carl Jung didn't believe in good and bad in the moralizing, suppressive sense. He believed in wholeness, in integration. He warned us, one does not become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. Let that sink in. Your light, your peace, purpose, freedom, doesn't come from avoiding your darkness. It comes from facing it, knowing it, listening to it. But facing it, that's where most people stop, because the descent into the shadow feels like death. You begin to feel it in your adult life, in your relationships, in your career, in those quiet moments between distractions. Something feels off, unlived, unexpressed. You lash out. You withdraw. You overachieve or self-sabotage or project your buried emotions onto others, blaming them for the things you refuse to face within. You say things like, "That's just how I am," or "They're the problem," unaware that the real driver of your behavior is a puppet master you've refused to meet. You're unconscious. And it will keep driving your life until you have the courage to turn the lights on in the basement. This is what Jung called individuation, the sacred, often painful journey of integrating all the parts of yourself to become whole. It's not about perfection, it's about authenticity. It's about sitting down with your jealousy and asking it what it's trying to protect. About holding your sadness like a teacher, not a curse. About recognizing that your rage may carry a voice long silenced. Your voice. You learn that the shadow isn't evil, it's exiled power. The things you've been most afraid to look at, your wounds, your failures, your unmet desires, they are not your enemies. They are the keys to your liberation. But this path isn't glamorous. There is no shortcut. No affirmation strong enough to bypass what you haven't faced. Jung knew this. That's why he spent years exploring his own unconscious, recording dreams, building mandalas, conversing with archetypes, not to escape reality, but to understand it from the inside out, because he knew you cannot truly know the world until you know yourself, and you cannot know yourself until you meet the parts you've disowned. So, how do you begin? You watch your reactions, what triggers you, what repulses you, what you judge harshly in others, because it often points to what you've buried in yourself. You get curious. You listen to your dreams. You write without censorship. You reflect when your emotions feel disproportionate. You ask, what part of me is crying out here? What have I not allowed myself to feel, to say, to want? You stop asking, what's wrong with me? And start asking, what part of me have I forgotten? And slowly the shadow begins to soften. It may appear as a dream, a breakdown, a confrontation you didn't see coming. But these are invitations. Initiations. Because here's the paradox. Your darkest emotions often guard your brightest gifts. Your creativity may be hidden under your chaos, your strength under your grief, your authenticity behind your fear of rejection. You are not here to eliminate your shadow. You are here to reclaim it, to remember yourself, piece by fractured piece, until you become whole. And that's the real journey of consciousness, not transcendence, but descent into your story, your sorrow, your complexity, your contradictions, not to drown in them, but to find the bottom, the bedrock, the truth. And from there, you rise, not as a clean slate, but as a full soul, human, flawed, real. This is what Jung meant when he said, "I'd rather be whole than good." The world doesn't need more perfection. It needs more people brave enough to face themselves, to break the cycles they inherited, to make the unconscious conscious, to walk into their own shadow and return with light. Because when you own your darkness, you no longer need to project it. You stop blaming, you start choosing, and that is how fate becomes freedom. So, the next time you feel broken, angry, ashamed, don't turn away, turn inward. There's a part of you waiting to be seen, not to be punished, but to be understood, to be welcomed home. Because in the end, you are not the light or the darkness. You are the one who sees both. And that awareness, that's where transformation begins.